You are listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast brought to you by Birmingham Live. Hello and welcome back to the Claret and Blue podcast. My name is Dan Rowlands. I'm joined as always by John Townley and a special guest, Neil Dunworth from the For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. And I've got that podcast name out in one go without stuttering over it for probably the first time. And for the first time in since game week 10 or 15 or whatever it was, Aston Villa are not 11th. It's unbelievable. Into the top half, 9th place, not just overtaking Chelsea, overtaking Fulham as well. Gents, John, I'll start with you. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thanks. We've been saying that for, I was going to say weeks, it's been months, hasn't it? That we've been saying, but we're still in 11th after winning like 3 games in a row. So yeah, just to get into the top 10, and then we've sort of had our patience rewarded, and now we're 9th and like 2 points off European football, I think. So yeah, loads to look forward to, and yeah, great night.
Neil, before we started, I know you've done your own podcast already as well, so we'll give a link out to that in the comments as well. Before we started, you were like, "Oh, I've got a bottle of beer, I'll put it away. Put it back out if you want, mate. Have a beer, celebrate. I've only got water in front of me here, but yeah, what a night, what a feeling."
Yeah, I was chugging down a moment ago, and I went, "Yeah, it's all good in my own podcast, but I can't do it in somebody else's, you know." But yeah, great. Listen, look, Aston Villa on the crest of a wave. Unai Emery's come in here. He's found the secret sauce. Like, he really has. Because we haven't exactly gone out and changed 11 players like the team we played today. We've gone out and we've utilized what we have, and essentially what he's done is he's just done a small bit of redecorating, and all of a sudden the players feel more comfortable, feel more at home. And all you got to do is look at the way John McGinn has spoken during the last week and spoke after the match, after the game today, and that speaks volumes, I suppose, about how the players have bought into his way of thinking. And it's I know it can be a small bit hyperbolic to say, but you know, he is the reason that Aston Villa are shooting up the league, and long may it continue, because to have that level of organization, that level of structure, that level of attention to detail is may not be the prettiest thing on the field for 90 minutes, but it's really effective.
Yeah, before we get any further, we're going to try something different today for the first time ever on a live show, at least. We did a phone-in while Stephen Gerrard was still here, so it tells you how long ago it was. But we're going to do some voice notes that people have sent me, and I think I've got 3 or 4 that I can actually use, that the audio is good, and they're not just rambling and swearing or whatnot. So if you want to feature on the show tonight, you can send a WhatsApp voice note to the number listed down here, 07920 245 162. I had a load of people ring that number, and I was like, no, I'm not answering it. No way whatsoever. It's a work phone, so spam it, whatever you want. If people come across this aren't Villa fans, it'll be turned off after this podcast, so do what you like. If you want to send a WhatsApp voice note with your opinion, I will grab my phone and play it into the microphone. No swearing and stuff, if possible, and I will vet them on mute while you guys are chatting away at some point. So if you want to send one, that's the number. I'll give it another shout out in another 20 minutes or whatever. Yeah, let's get into the game then before we go into the fan kind of messages later on. There's a moment during the commentary, I think it was Andy Hinchcliffe, said something like, when he was like summarising the game, he said something like, "Oh, Villa won't want to play this kind of style, but it's effective for them and it's doing well," words to that effect. And I was kind of sat there thinking, don't we want to play this way? What's wrong with playing the way we are? It's an effective means of earning points. I think, John, you said before we started that only, both Manchester clubs and Arsenal have won more away games than Villa all season.
Yeah.
Than Unai Emery. Unai Emery's had 7 away games for Villa, I think, and won 5 of them, is it?
Yeah, it doesn't sound as
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't sound as impressive when you sort of break down that we've only won 5 all season, but that is a good record.
Better than the other 4, better than 13 other clubs in the Premier League. So, you know, this is what I don't understand. We've spoken before about this kind of style over substance discussion. Villa are picking up points at a rate of nuts. So why does the style? I mean, I think the style's in flashes good anyway, and we're playing some really nice football. But it's kind of the perception, I think, is probably that, especially in this game, I suppose. Oh, well, they're 1-0 up. They're time wasting. They've gone to 5 at the back. They've changed things. They've gone to 6-man defence. Effectively, in some instances, Villa are just grinding it out, a smash and grab. I won't describe it as a smash and grab. I think it's a professional game, a professional way of playing, being smart about it. And yeah, I don't see the reason for the critique of the style of playing, like branding it as bad, boring football. It's effective, and it will only get better as time goes on as well.
Yeah, and there was a comment from well, I think it was one of the pundits or one of the presenters after the game that sort of brought up the match stats afterwards and said, "Oh, but if you look at this, it's like Chelsea have had an amazing game, and Villa should be, feeling so lucky that they've come away with a 2-0 win at Stamford Bridge." And it's like, well, what do you want us to do? If we're going to dominate the whole game and have 70% possession and have 20 shots, we'll probably win the game 5-0. So it's one or two ways, isn't it? Of course, we're going to grind it out, but grinding it out doesn't mean that you can't play, nice passages of play and building up from the back well. And this has all happened in like 5 months. So Villa are not even the dark yet, and we've won. You say, like, I think there's only 2 clubs in the Premier League that have got more points than us now since Emery's come in. So it's been a massive improvement, like a huge improvement from where we were even 4 months ago, 5 months ago. And there's loads to look forward to still, and to go to a place like Chelsea. And Chelsea aren't the team that we associate Chelsea as being, should we say? But that's the team that we all know have spent like £500 million in the last 7 months or whatever it is. So a really good performance, more so than anything. And with those performances, you're going to get results, as we've seen against Brighton, Tottenham. Those being 2 clubs who are obviously right up there in the Premier League, and then also Southampton's and clubs like those. We're doing it against every team, aren't we? So that's the positive thing. It's not just sort of one-offs here and there, or playing a particular team or style of team. We're doing it against everyone. So loads of positives.
Yeah, you mentioned it's not the Chelsea that that people expect them to be a top 4 club and competing for titles. I understand that, but we're unlucky to lose against them this season. And let's not forget, this season, it feels like a lifetime ago, because probably the World Cup break and a change of manager, that our previous manager, Steven Gerrard, was saying for the reverse fixture, a side like Chelsea should come to Villa Park and wipe the floor with us. Emery transforms the club in a couple of months and goes to Stamford Bridge in their backyard, and yes, they have plenty of shots on target, or plenty of shots at least, and loads of possession, but effectively do nothing with it. Martinez makes some great saves to keep them out of the game, and Villa toy with Chelsea to a certain extent in some aspects as well, and take the 3 points and run, and it's happy days, isn't it, Neil? What do you make of the kind of star substance debate? It's, if we're winning games and picking up points and heading towards European football, play how you want. I don't really care.
100%. I remember Sam Allardyce when it was being labelled. I think it was in the same rant he went down where he said if his name is Samuel Allardyce, people would love him. And I think he said something along the lines of, he was asked then afterwards, well, what is your style? Do you think people don't like your style of football? And it was with West Ham, I think, and they were in the championship. And he turned around and he said, why do people not like winning football? That's what he said. And look, I don't think we're not at Big Sam levels. Obviously we're not at Big Sam levels, because we do some really exciting things in the field. Like Alex Moreno's a really exciting attacker on the left-hand side. We've got really exciting play from McGinn. Ramsey, I thought, was brilliant today as well, and we make it exciting at the back when we pass the ball directly out to Boubacar Kamara when there's 2 fellas hanging off him. So it's exciting football from that point of view. But I think what I'd like what I think Unai Emery has done is he's come in and he's made us an international football team. He's made us play the game like an international team would play the game, because look, we all give out about the international break, but you see it in every single tournament. You see a team will go and be well structured, well drilled, well disciplined, well laid out, and they'll get results that they shouldn't get in the group stages. And hey, I'm Irish. That's all we could do for a period of time, was draw our way through qualifying campaigns and draw our way through World Cup groups. So I've seen it under the likes of Jack Charlton before, and under the likes of Mick McCarthy, and it's it's wholesome when you're the fan of a club that's doing that, or a nation that's doing that. It's really wholesome, and it gives you that underdog, that kind of steely, kind of back against the wall, everyone's putting us down kind of feeling. And I think Aston Villa thrives in that situation. I really think they do.
So does Emery.
And so does Emery, exactly. That's what I was going to say. And I think this suits him, and I think it's almost done by design. So, look, as you say, winning football is winning football, and long may it continue.
I was going to do like the audio fan section kind of at the end to give time to people to send ones in, but there's one that you were mentioning there, Neil, kind of going under the radar, which somebody sent in earlier. I think it was Scott. So I'm going to play this via my phone into the microphone. So hopefully this works and sounds okay, and I'll come to your thoughts afterwards on what Scott says, okay?
Yes, Dan, what a win. Literally, I just can't believe how much we're going under the radar. We're doing so well. We're 1 point behind Liverpool, We're above Fulham, and they're meant to have had this amazing season. We're 2 points behind Brentford and Brighton, who have also had this amazing season. We're 6 points behind Newcastle. Fair enough, they've got 2 games in hand, and obviously I'm not saying we're going to catch them, but they've had their best season probably in their history, well, since the 90s. And we're just going so under the radar. You just imagine how good we're going to be next year when Emery's actually got all of his own players and a full pre-season. Unbelievable.
So I love the fact that we fly under the radar. I think we've spoken about this before on previous episodes. I'm happy to kind of go unnoticed and do our thing away from the prying eyes of the media and the big clubs, kind of looking at all our players and going, oh, Villa are doing all right. Let's go and nick some of them. But Scott's point is a great one that we'll talk about Europe later in the show, of course. How can we do a Clark and Blue podcast without mentioning the European tour? Brighton, Brentford had brilliant seasons. Fulham having a great season, and I suppose they're surpassing their expectations. Maybe fans expect Villa to be up in the top half and don't expect Fulham to do that. Fulham one of the favourites to go down, weren't they? So yes, they are having a great season. We're above Fulham now, 2 points behind the other two, like I mentioned, 6 points off Newcastle, which I think somebody else said, or Scott might have said that we're not going to catch Newcastle, and that's not the aim. We'll go for top 4. Like I said, we'll talk about Europe later in more detail, but it's not out of the realms of possibility that if Villa can string another few wins together, and following up Chelsea with Leicester and Forest, 2 sides that are Leicester in free fall. I think they've picked up 1 point since they beat us at Villa Park 6-7 games ago. We've won 4 and drawn 1 in that time, I think. Vastly different. Forest are Forest that can pick up points here and there, but ultimately aren't a great side. If Villa can be talking this time next week about another 4 points, 6 points, it's a genuine possibility that Villa could qualify for some kind of European football this season, which is, if we kind of were in a time capsule now and was like playing this back to ourselves back in October, November, you go, what are these? These guys doing some kind of like hypothetical scenario podcast? What are they talking about? But yeah, the improvement is vast, and like Scott said, flying under the radar I like that.
Yeah, I don't actually have the stats to my on my screen, but I don't know how many points we were away, say, after we beat Brighton. It must have been, I don't know, 20 maybe? Or was that maybe too much? I have no idea, but that's what it felt like, because it was, obviously climbing out of relegation trouble as we were the season previous when we just brought Gerrard in. So I think the reason why we've sort of flown under the radar is just because I think 2 points, the one I think you've already made, Dan, is that we are probably supposed to be in and around this current position in terms of league standing between 9th and 12th. I think that was where people probably thought would finish. I think being 2 points away from European football and what is it, like 4 or 5, maybe 6 from Newcastle. But obviously we play Newcastle, so that can sort of come down that points.
And we play Brighton, Brentford and Fulham as well.
Yeah, it's all there to sort of to play for. But I'd also say that there's a lot going on in the Premier League in terms of there's 9 teams fighting for relegation. There's 6 teams going for top 4. There's Chelsea having a bad season. So in general, you're not going to hear anything about the team that has been in mid-table for the last couple of weeks being us. But it's only sort of Villa fans it's only us that care about Villa enough to think, oh, actually, by the way, we are here and we're climbing the league and we've got the most points of any of the club, bar the best 2 teams in European football. So I think we were always going to fly under the radar. I think now that we've beat Chelsea, now that we're in 9th, and now you can clearly see where we are and where we're going, I think that's probably going to become more so in the media spotlight. But I just think because there's so much other things happening in the Premier League and there's more media interest in terms of relegation fights, top 4, Chelsea not doing well, different things like that. The middle of the table where Villa were, or in 11th for like 3 or 4 months, people have sort of just lost interest in us, if that makes sense, apart from us Villa fans who know what a brilliant job Emery's been doing. And up until now, yeah, I'm fine with going under the radar, but there will come a point, I think, in the next couple of weeks, if we continue to do what we've been doing, if we beat Leicester, beat Forest, all of a sudden, we'll probably be in that European, whether it's 7th or 6th, maybe. I don't know, maybe that's too far, because Brighton's and Brentford's are still really good teams. And I think they drew 3-3 today. That kind of showed how good they are and also how similar they are. So, yeah, I'm not too sure about European football, but because we play the teams ahead of us, then there's every chance. I mean, we're not going to go unbeaten for the rest of the season. So we'll be like 5 unbeaten, I think. So I think that's the longest run, actually, of games since 2010, if that makes sense, of 5-game period unbeaten, or 13 points out of 15, which is what we've got. That's
in the Premier League.
Yeah, in a 5-game period since 2010. So I'm not too sure how many we're not going to win another 4 or 5 games in a row, put it that way. So while we need to be consistent, we're going to have to still be, well on top of form, and beating those teams above is still going to be a massive ask. But it's absolutely doable. When we were saying this a couple of weeks ago, Emery said it himself, like, yeah, if we win the games that we want to win, we'll get European football. And that's that. Like, if you get European football, you get it on merit. You don't just get it because some teams aren't playing well, like Chelsea or whatever. We've still got a lot of work to do to get there, but it's absolutely possible.
Yeah, I've just looked at a Premier League table. Date range from July to October 24th, the day that Emery was appointed. Villa played 12 games with 12 points. Man United was 6th with 20 points, so an 8-point swings to 6th place back then.
I suppose
probably more importantly is looking the other way, just to kind of alleviate. I mean, the primary target for Emery when he initially comes in is stop the rot, get anywhere away from relegation. We were 3 points above the relegation zone. When Emery took charge. If I could do some very quick math, we're on 41 now. Leicester have got 25. Help me out, is that 16 points?
16, yeah.
So, to go from 3 points from the drop zone to 16 now, that's probably a better barometer of the job Emery's done rather than how much closer we are to 6th.
Yeah, I agree. And like, even I saw a tweet that Dan Bardell had out earlier on today as well. He said, like, Brighton, Spurs, Southampton, Everton, Chelsea, all away games that we've won under Unai Emery. Previous guy, we'd only taken 2 points away from
Previous
home.
guy.
And that that's, and I think that's been the kind of the essence of where Unai Emery has come from, because like Brighton, Spurs, Everton to a serious degree as well at the time, because they had because Dyche was in there and they were after beating Arsenal, and they were after, didn't they draw with Liverpool or something like that? They gotten some good results, and then we went to beat Everton. It wasn't that convincing, but we beat Everton, and then to come out and beat Chelsea too. It's a serious run to be on, considering we've only lost 1 game away from home since Unai Emery's come in, and that's against Man City, who are arguably going to be neck and neck with Arsenal come the last day of the season. So that's a really, really good turnaround. And as you say, we're used to, I suppose, flipping a coin in away games, but now we're going into every game. And as I say, it goes back to your last question about style and substance. Does it matter when you list out those teams that we've beaten away from home? For me, it doesn't. And I think that, creeping up the league is exactly what all Aston Villa fans want to do, because God knows I remember that game against West Ham when we had to get something out of it to stay up. I was crippled with a hangover. My sister turned 30 the day before, and there was a brief hiatus in lockdown here in Ireland, and we had a big party, and I think everybody in my small town got alcohol poisoning that night. And I watched that game with a bag of peas in my head. My head was splitting. And when Grealish scored, it was great. When Yarmolenko, I think it was, scored, I thought I was going to have to call a coroner at some stage. I thought I was dead. But I don't ever want to be in that situation again. Not the hungover part, but the part where Aston Villa are relying on last day of the season stuff to stay up. And this is a great complaint for us to have, and it's absolutely fantastic to see it in such a short turnaround, because clubs talk about 5-year plans, 3-year plans, and oh yeah, we give Unai Emery a 4-year contract or a 5-year contract or whatever, but managers only last 3 years. This guy's turned it around. This guy turned it around in 2 days. He was here 2 days. We beat Manchester United. Turned it around in 2 days, and that's the story of our season. And when I speak to opposition fans, when I'm on their podcasts or whatever, they always ask me, Steven Gerrard, was he doing that bad a job? And I never kind of say, yes, he was doing a bad job. But what I say is this is the job he was doing, but we're a lot better since Unai Emery came in. And I think that's just fair to say. And it's not dancing on anybody, it's just fair, and that's the way it is. And it's irrefutable at this stage, because we're such a better prospect, I suppose. And we go into every game thinking we can win it to 0 as well, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, there's another couple of voice notes that have come in. I've not been able to half vet, so I'm hoping there's no kind of dodgy legal battles in there or any terrible language or anything, but we'll come to those in a bit. There's one on Steven Gerrard as well, while we're talking about him, that I'll play as well in a second. On Martinez, though, quickly, John, 100 Premier League appearances now for the club, 30-odd I should know, 36, is it clean sheets? 35,
34.
34 clean sheets. He's broken some kind of record, which I should know, but I don't. But it's the fastest Villa player to get to that many clean sheets in the Premier League or something like that. Is that right?
I think it's the most clean sheets after 100 appearances. I think.
Yeah, that sounds more like it, doesn't it?
That's it.
You've done a podcast, John, with John McKenzie from Tifo Football and The Athletic about playing out from the back, which is, again, a topic we'll talk about in a minute as well. Martinez and the goalkeeper is key to that. The kind of early pass to Kamara, which it's not great, is it really? And Kamara didn't have his greatest game either. Again, that's another thing on the talking points in a little bit. But Martinez is key for that. A clean sheet, every 3 and a bit games. Unbelievable, really, to be having that level of goalkeeper at Aston Villa. And we've also done a podcast about our best Premier League 11s of the Premier League era. Martinez is probably a great shout for most people as an all-time Villa goalkeeper as well. Just a bit of chat from you, John, while I listen to these voice notes on how good Emery Martinez is effectively.
Yeah, one of the best keepers in the world, and it's bizarre to sort of say that with a straight face when you're a Villa fan, considering where we've come from over the last few years. Speaking to John McKenzie, Tifo, regular tactical expert, obviously Emery's trying to build up from the back, and the way that we do it, it's all quite scripted, if that makes sense. So you have like a Pep Guardiola or De Zerbi from Brighton, they play out from the back very differently in different situations in different games to suit the opponent. The way we do it is always quite similar. So our centre backs will split, the wing backs will go high, and Kamara will drop in, and Buendia will try and get some space, and that's the way we play out from the back. And all of that is very important all of that means it's very important for Martinez to be on top of his game in terms of that. We know what a good goalkeeper is, and although today we almost, as you say, made a bit of an error, similar in a way to the one that we did against Brighton. It was just closer to goal. It was Mudryk, wasn't it, that probably should have scored. Martinez had 53 touches in the game, which is quite a lot for a goalkeeper, especially away from home. But it just proves again when, like, there's moments in that game where if which I don't really recall, but if we're 2-0 up away against a top team in previous seasons, I highly doubt that when Villa retained possession, the first thing we'd think about is, let's go back to the keeper or let's go back to our fullbacks and use the keeper to build up again. It never sort of happened. And again, I think it's just testament to what a good job Emery's done, that in 5 months, which sounds like a long time, but it's not many games.
So 15 games.
Yeah. In less than half a season, we are very comfortable with that. To make a mistake here and there, every team's going to do that. I think most teams across Europe, and especially in the first 15 games of doing it, having not done it at all, really, in their careers, by the way. Mings never really did that. Martinez, he was obviously at Arsenal and did it ever so slightly under Arteta, but before then he was playing in lower leagues. Conser as well did it ever so slightly in Dean Smith, but the Premier League is a different ball game. The way that we're doing it is super. And Martinez, we all know, we don't need to speak about what a good goalkeeper is. We all know that, but I think the way he's adjusting his game to play out from the back as well, that just shows another layer of his qualities. And it's something that he's going to have to improve as well, because we all need to. So all the squad needs to improve, because although you're going to make mistakes, the top teams don't do it so regularly. Top goalkeeper, and to get 34 clean sheets and 100 Premier League games for a team that's just been promoted as well, or was promoted, and he was joined us in our second season, didn't he? And we've been in 14th, 11th, and then obviously this season. So 34 clean sheets and 100 games is no mean feat, and that's better than everyone that's come before him, isn't it? Sorry, Brad Friedel, obviously Guzan, Sorensen, and there's another keeper that I've probably missed out there that I can't think. But top goalkeeper, and we're lucky to have him. We gave him an opportunity, but I think everything that he's saying in the media and stuff is really good as well. Obviously, he wants to play in the Champions League and everything like that, but he's got things that he wants to do at Villa, and I don't think he'll rest until he sort of achieves everything in a way.
There was a video that Villa posted of Martinez in the dressing room saying, great win and good to get the clean sheet, etc. And then he ended by saying, now let's get to Europe or something. It's like, oh my God, one of the players is talking about Europe now. This is all real now.
First time that we've heard it as well, coming out of either, say, Emery's spoken about it, but it was asked directly. But it's nice that the players are sort of, obviously they're aware that we're 2 points away from European football, but them saying it as well is like, they actually believe it, and so they should, because we're in such a good vein of form and they are capable of taking us there.
Just quickly checking the fixtures. when we play Leicester, is it a full round? It is a full round of fixtures this week. I was going to say if this Leicester game Tuesday is like our game in hand and no one else is playing, we could be up in the top 6 if we win. But who plays who? Brentford play Man United on the Wednesday, and Brighton play Bournemouth. You'd expect them to get something. So it's possible that we've climbed a couple of places again.
This week is kind of this midweek fixture is kind of the one that came in. They were the fixtures that were cancelled when the Queen died, I think. I think this is when it was fixed in. And it was originally supposed to be one of the fixtures that was supposed to be popped in after the World Cup. I think it was supposed to be kept free in case any of those any other ones had to be moved around. So that's what this fixture all is for. Which is great. And it's winnable, so keep them coming midweek when they're winnable.
Yeah, so it's a big week, really. Like we said earlier, Leicester now and Forest. Like as much as Villa have got European aspirations or just climbing the Premier League table. If you have a great win against Chelsea on a Saturday evening, you've got to back it up with a free fall in Leicester and a home game to Forest. If you lose both of those, for example, yes, it's not the end of the world because maybe European football isn't possible this season. But for momentum's case and just trying to get into as comfortably into the top half as possible. Like this time next week, I don't want to be going, we're back into 11th. And it was nice last Saturday, but we didn't have a great week or whatever. It's all about pushing on now and keep going.
And they're just putting down on those 2 games as well. They are, if you could pick 2 games to come after winning against Chelsea, you would pick those. Leicester have won 3 games at home. Is that right? 3 games at home all season. That's a horrendous record.
Sounds about right.
Jesus, that's really bad. They've lost 7 games at home.
They've only won 7 games all season, so yeah.
So they've won 3 times at home all season, and they're playing. It's going to be classic Villa if we don't win this. And we've obviously got an incredible away record, and then we play Forest, who have won once away from home at the weekend. So if you could handpick games, you would pick those 2. And yeah, not to put a negative spin on it, but if we don't, I'd be very disappointed. And although that's coming after Chelsea, you have to take each game as it comes, because we were saying a few weeks ago, although you beat Spurs and teams like that, you can't then look and think, we'll take a point then against Leicester because then that's 4 points in 2 games. It's like, no, if you win that game, you need to make use of it and then win again and again. So it's getting out of that sort of mindset that we, and I am probably still in, Villa fans thinking, we beat Chelsea, but then so we can afford to, take a point away from home if it comes next. If we can win against most teams as we've proven that we can, let's do it. Like, why can't we?
If you've won the hard game, you don't back it up by a draw and take that as a good 4 points. If you drew to Chelsea and back it up with Leicester, you go, that's a good 4 point haul. But the other way around, it's 6 points.
In the season that we got promoted, season after, I'd get it then. But I'm just saying it because I'm like that, and I'm thinking, there's no way we're going to stay unbeaten until the rest of the season. But why shouldn't we have that sort of mindset? Because you have to take each game as it comes. And if we're doing that, if you go through all the games that are coming up, we've either beaten them already or been very, very competitive against them in terms of the teams that we've got to come, or we are just in much better form. So yeah, football doesn't work out like that, and you have to play it, on the pitch. But yeah, it's exciting end to the season for sure.
Mr. Emery is just Aston Villa have just posted there and had a little transcript that said his exact words are, "We are not stopping. We're going to be very demanding and try and get 3 points and to do better on Tuesday." So, so what you said there, John, about wanting to think about that way of going unbeaten for the rest of the season, Mr. Emery is thinking exactly that. So, long may it continue. And you know what? As that famous phrase, "Do you want to bet against us?" That's kind of what's going through my mind at the moment with Mr. Emery, because he seems to be kind of turning all these faux pas that we've had, Manchester United, the 3rd jersey, all this kind of stuff. Playing on Sundays, playing on Sundays in general, I think all these things turn them all in their heads. So fair play to him. Let's go unbeaten. Why not?
While you talk about Mr. Emery, let's go to one of the voice notes and talk about Mr. Gerrard very briefly. And I'll say briefly, this voice note is 11 seconds long, and it's my favourite one I've been sent. This was from Ben, who did the fan phone in last time we did it when Gerrard was still here. This is Ben. This is my favourite one.
Last time we did one of these, I was the bloody plonker saying give Gerrard more time. If we'd have sacked him a few games earlier, we would be sitting in 6th going for the Champions League. Bloody hell.
Love that. Not really much to say about it, but I just like it. At least admitting that, you were wrong about Gerrard and we move forward. Very glad about it as well. This is also a 10-second one. It's quite short. I think it's a question. So we'll play this one as well. There's no name for this one.
Great win for the Villa boys. 10 games left to go. Let's push on and finish as high up the table as we can. Up the Villa.
Not a question, but again, agree with the sentiment. So we'll move on quickly as well. I was slightly wary then I'd not listened to that one. I was thinking, is it 10 seconds? Because it's like a bad one, but no, we got away with it. Where's the one about 5 at the back? Bear with me, gents. Here we go, 5 at the back. This is from Will.
Hi guys, great game today. Will here. I thought it was a brilliant game, complete performance. Just one thing that was interesting, the 5 at the back, thought he played really well. Chambers did really well. Do you think that's something we're going to see more of in future games? It's a bit more tight, going to a 5-back up the Villa?
So I would have taken this question maybe before Emery and just as a managerial question as a whole and thought, we've seen 5 at the back in this instance now. Will we now see 5 at the back, a manager starting that? It's how I would have approached it before. And I would have said, nah, we won't play 5 at the back because that's not, we've done it once in a game, so it doesn't mean we'll start like it. I now see that question as, will we see Unai Emery play 5 at the back again for Aston Villa? And my answer to that is definitely, because we'll do the kind of thing that we did today. And he's a reactive manager and noticed or spotted that we were a little bit under the cosh from Chelsea sometimes. So I've got to change it. Kamara's on an early yellow card, not having his greatest game. He got picked up a knock early on as well. He's just come back from injury, massively ahead of schedule, I would say. I thought he'd be out for much longer than missing 2 games. I know it's international break as well, but even so, there's talk about if he trains well tomorrow, he'll be in the squad. Didn't expect him to start. So to me, that's ahead of schedule. So he comes off, Chambers comes on, and it's instantly your first thing. Chambers plays DM, he swaps with Kamara, straight swap. We play to this 5 at the back, almost a 6-man defence at times as well, like we mentioned earlier. And yeah, some will say it's a smash and grab, or it's boring football, it's grinding it out. Yeah, so what? We're 1-0 up at Chelsea. Like, yes, I expect us to think at some point, well, maybe let's kind of consolidate what we've got. You then back that up by still going forward and creating the second goal and winning 2-0, and it's happy days. But my answer to that now is yes, Emery will adapt to certain situations differently. Do I think we'll start games playing 5 at the back? Almost certainly not, because I don't think that's his style. Will we change in certain aspects based off the game? Yes. Is that fair?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he did use a wing-back system at Arsenal a few years ago, but I think that was because of the players he had and different things. And he has used different formations during his career as well, Emery. So when he came into Villa, I think we all probably thought it was the 4-2-3-1 because that's what we used when we beat Brentford, but that was just far too simplistic, like from our thinking. And going back to us as well, that's what they do to see out games this season. I think Rob Holding always comes on like the 80th minute or something, and they do 5 at the back, and then they win the game without sort of any fuss. But yeah, it just, again, we don't need to say it, but Emery is obviously, his in-game management is something that, I don't know, like maybe in previous managers or other clubs, you might look at and think, oh, wow, they changed formation and they won the game because of that, great in-game management. But with Emery, you must think, well, there's probably so much stuff that he does during the game that we don't even know about. You kind of think that, what do we even touch on? I don't want to just be a simplistic say, we went 5 at the back and it was all great. He's probably done so much of the things that have allowed us to win not just this game, but other games. Yeah, it's a good system, and it certainly works for our players at that point in the game. I think we used it against Bristol Rovers. Obviously, it doesn't matter that we lost the game. We probably played that literally just defending for 90 minutes just to see how it works, almost like a training exercise. So yeah, it worked today, and it'll be something that we can use going forward. It's about being flexible, because sometimes, again, I'm quite glass half full, half empty. Sorry, and in saying that, when some managers come in, they get a bounce and they win games, but then all of a sudden in the second season, opposition managers work them out and they can say, okay, well, this is how Villa are going to build up from the back, because they did it after 20 games last season, and here's what they're going to do when they go 1-0 down or 1-0 up or whatever it may be. So for Emery to change things, as we know he can do, that's good to see as well, because it just means we've got another sort of layer of not unpredictability, but another layer of assurance that we can win games, see out games in different ways rather than just one. Because someone like Graham Potter would be able to suss out what Emery's going to do at different points in a game. He probably didn't think we'd go 5 at the back and take Kamara off at half time. So yeah, it's just those little things that that make Emery the world-class manager that he is, and why we're doing so well at the moment.
Go on now.
I have a question.
You've got a question.
I've got a question.
Okay.
How many more points have Manchester City won than us since Unai Emery has come in?
I assume you know the answer because you've
I do.
checked
I'm
this
looking
up.
at it
Yeah,
here on
you're
my
looking at it
screen.
now. Okay, I'd say you're asking this. I'm kind of spoiling the fun here. That's what I do, I suppose. I guess you're asking this because it's not as drastic as people will think it's going to be. So
Yeah, it's
some
not.
people would think
I
Man
thought
City
it would
got
be
30
more.
points and we've got
Yeah.
15 or whatever. I'd say it's like a 3 or 4 point swing between us as a guess.
3
I don't know what the
points.
specific numbers. 3, yeah.
Yeah. So since the 6th of November, City have 32 points, we've 29 points. Brentford 27, Manchester United 27, Liverpool 26, Arsenal 41, which is that's amazing. You know, like that's if Arsenal lose it from here, then I just would not like to be within. Actually, I think I'm just about safe here in Ireland from the blowback that would happen from London. You know, if Arsenal would throw away the league now, but no. And the reason that I brought that up was because once again you were like, there's been a lot in on Twitter recently about is Emery an elite manager, and it's all semantics about names and about how you want to label him. How I want to label him as is. He is currently at this moment in time, he's the third best manager in the Premier League, and the statistics point to that, and they are that, and they're there, and they show it because Thomas Frank might have something to say about that, I would imagine, but you know, Villa have done. He knows nothing about these players. Frank has 3 years with these players. You know, Unai Emery has nothing with these players previously. He knew none of them. He knew Chambers and Martinez, but he didn't barely play them in Arsenal. You know, so they would have been a step down from what he knew in this league. So going back to that, and I think this pod's team is really about that. You know, it's about the style of play, because it's so prevalent, and it's the one thing that, you know, you listen to the Sky Sports punditry afterwards, and we spoke about it. There was 20 minutes talking about how bad Chelsea were, but who cares at the end of the day? That's not our problem. Like, I suppose another question is, does Potter see out the rest of the season? I think they'd be mad to sack him because they've given him the toughest job in world football at the moment. The absolute toughest. They've given him, they hired him to get them out of the mire, and then they gave him like 15 players out of nowhere and then said, gel them and give him no time. I think it'd be absolutely insane to get rid of him. I think it'd be insane, but they do things.
Just on that stat there, you mentioned about the points haul between us and Man City. That's only the case that it is because Man City beat us, no?
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
If we beat Man City, that's the other way around. We're 3 points ahead of them. So it's obviously fine margins, but yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
You should beat Wolves. Bring it down to a 1 point gap. You know, things like that as well. You know, we can feel aggrieved going to be 3 points behind Man City.
Man City say if we beat so and so, it's the same. Yeah, I understand your point. There's 2 players that I want to speak about specifically that I don't think we've mentioned yet, so I'm going to kind of save that in a second because I want to kind of rattle through some of these voice notes. Some of them are like a minute long, so I'll just kind of let them go. This first one was from Kieran, I think. It's a minute long, so Kieran, take it away.
Thanks for having me on the pod, guys. The last time I spoke to you, I was basically commiserating what was, in my mind, the worst football I've seen in years and years and years under a certain previous manager. What we are seeing now under Unai Emery is just the complete polar opposite of that. He is unleashing the best that each of our players have to offer. I mean, look at John McGinn. He's finally bringing some of that international form to the team. We've seen it. We've seen what he can do. That is unbelievable. Ollie Watkins is clean in 5. I mean, he's just literally made history. It's unbelievable. And you know what? I'm starting to think, I'll say it. Why not head for Europe? What do we have to lose at this point? Just go for it, boys. Enjoy the momentum and just have an absolute blast, because you know what? We as fans are from the Scottish villains up the Villa.
Wow. I didn't plan that at all, but the 2 players I mentioned that I wanted to speak about that I haven't was McGinn and Watkins, so this is a perfect kind of segue into those 2. You can take one each, yeah. Who wants what? Has anyone got a preference on who they would like to speak about? John?
I'll take John McGinn.
Okay, let's start with Watkins then. Neil,
how
good has Ollie Watkins been in his turnaround? 5 in 5 consecutive goal scoring away games now. First player to do that first player in Premier League history for Aston Villa to do that. First player since who was the name you said before?
Tony Haley.
Tony Haley in 1968 or something like that. So again, maths better than me, 60 odd years or something. I don't know. It's some achievement. The fact that as well, the kind of surprising thing for me with that stat, I know you can kind of, it's a 5-game spell, a 5 away games, so possibly a 10-game or so period of form, I guess. We've had some brilliant strikers since 1960 odd. So the fact that it's taken until 2023 for Ollie Watkins to do it, who maybe not be on a par with whoever Aston Villa hero you want to chuck in there, is some achievement for him to do. And the fact that he was on 3 goals in January and he's now on double figures, getting into double figures for the 3rd consecutive season as well. Only I think Harry Kane, Heung-min Son, and Mo Salah, I think, have done the same thing. At some stage we're all talking about, oh, maybe we need to improve on Ollie Watkins. 6 months later, we're going, Ollie Watkins is pretty good, isn't he?
Well, Dan, I'm delighted that you've asked me that question because I am the conductor of the Ollie Watkins fan bus, and I have been for quite a while at this moment in time. And I've been stamping tickets, and I've noticed that there was a few people weren't coming on the bus for a while there. I noticed that there's a couple of free seats there. I don't know. I thought it might have been COVID related or whatever. I wasn't 100% sure, but the bus is full now, and I'm delighted. Going to buy a double decker, I think, at this stage to fit everybody on it. But no, I jest because. On our own podcast, myself and Paddy at the start of the season, we had this kind of back and forth over Danny Ings or Ollie Watkins, and it still goes on, and it's a bit of crack. And there was a hashtag Team Paddy, hashtag Team Neil thing going on there for a while. And I must say, I was feeling like I would never be vindicated at one stage of the turn of the year. I was going, damn it, I'm after. But no, everything is coming right, I think, for Ollie Watkins. And look, I think today was an actual perfect kind of microcosm of why Ollie Watkins, of the improvement in Ollie Watkins today. He absolutely ate Koulibaly's dinner today. He was fantastic. Koulibaly didn't know how to defend him at all.
Yeah, some battle.
And I think, and Chelsea tried to be cute today because Chelsea played Cucurella, who I'm just going to come out and say it. I said in my own podcast, if he's worth 60 million, I need a new agent because I'm definitely worth a couple of tens of millions. He is useless. I'm sorry, but I cannot get behind Cucurella. I never bought the hype in him. Reece James on the other side is really good, but coming back from injury, like Chelsea got cute and they played 2 fast, nippy players in there. And Ollie Watkins was marshalled by Koulibaly. And I looked at that team and I went, this is great. This is fantastic news for Villa because Watkins is going to draw him left, right, and centre, and he did, and he found lots of space today. Yes, he's missed. It went probably about 14 yards wide. The first one that he took, I saw that shot and I went, "Ooh, today could be one of those days." But then his goal was brilliant. To be able to just have the composure to lift it over the goalkeeper. But he won everything that went into the channels. He won everything. And McGinn, I thought McGinn was really good. And I know you're going to get on to John McGinn, but the way he played Cucurella and Jacob Ramsey, the way they pushed up on both Cucurella and Reece James and made them come forward to isolate Ollie Watkins. That is an Unai Emery staple. And the amount of times this season Ollie Watkins has been isolated on a centre half, even when they play 3 at the back, has been brilliant. And that's one of the beautiful things is when we break at pace. Before it was head down with Leon Bailey and hope he doesn't crash into the first defender. Whereas now it's a bit more intricate, whereby there's runners off the ball. And you mentioned the likes of Buendia getting John. You mentioned there when you were talking to John McKenzie that Buendia gets kind of, he starts to roam and he creates that space in there. That also creates the space for Ollie Watkins. And Ollie Watkins needs to be an off the shoulder type guy. And we're seeing the benefits of this because, yes, he's had some really good finishes. He's fluffed his lines in a couple of one-to-ones. That's to be like, he's not a complete striker, and I'm fully okay in saying that. But, he is a form English striker at this moment in time with Harry Kane, with Ivan Toney, and with Marcus Rashford. And, I'm going to say this because I'm not English. I was delighted he didn't get called up for the England team because he could stay at home in Bodymore Heat. And I want him to perform for Aston Villa. And he will, and he is, and he's doing it. And let him get his just rewards at the end of the season. And if he ends up getting his England recall at the end of the season, well, then fair play to him, because I think he deserves it because he's reworked his game under Emery and it's paying dividends.
No, I'm English, and I was more than happy for him to stay at Bodymoor Heath as well. Just don't care about England, to be honest. John Townley, talk to me about John McGinn, a Scottish international who, loads of people in the comments on the podcast in the last 6 months, a year, whatever it might be, people saying things like, why can he not play the same kind of football for Aston Villa that he does in the international team for Scotland? Plays a different role, he plays a lot more further forward. I don't know how many goals he's on now, but I know he's kind of hit a landmark recently, hasn't he, or landmark appearances, and you kind of think, what is McGinn's level for Scotland? He's had 2 great games for them in the international break just gone, obviously beating Spain in one of those. But McGinn's been good since Emery's come in, basically. I think he's kind of transformed his game. He looks fitter than ever as well, which is important. So, John, talk me through McGinn and his improvement.
Yeah, much like Watkins, he looks like a different player under Emery, doesn't he? I've said it for a few years, and most Villa fans will agree, but that John McGinn that we had in the Championship was an incredible footballer. The way he would motor past people, he could not be stopped at any point in a game. I'd never seen a player like that before, almost like Grealish. I'd never seen that sort of play before. So for him to get that injury that he got like 2 years ago against Southampton in the season that we stayed up, he missed a lot of the season, come back a bit early in Project Restart. I think even since then, he's been asked to do different roles, but he hasn't been the same sort of relentless John McGinn that we know that he can be. And maybe that's confidence, maybe that's different things. But whatever it is, he's now returning or has returned to that player that he was. And it sounds weird, return to the player was in the Championship, but how he looks and how he feels in the game, that it's there. Like, you can tell he's got that bite and that confidence about him now. He's not just sort of bumping into people and giving away cheap free kicks. He's taking the ball, driving up the field, getting assists, and thankfully today got his goal, and what a quality goal it was. One of his best goals probably of his career, and he's scored some nice ones, hasn't he? Yeah. He's got a fair chance of breaking the Scotland all-time record score. I think he's like 10 or 12 goals out, which sounds like a lot, but he's only 28 now, I think. So if he plays for the Scottish national team for another 4 or 5 years, you never know. Like anything's like Kenny Dalglish or something that's up there, or maybe someone else.
Is he really that close? Christ, I thought it was more than that.
It's like 10 or 12 goals, I'm pretty sure. But either way, he's moving up that ladder like rapidly from midfield, and he does score like every game for Scotland, to be fair. But yeah, what he's bringing to the team is something that you can't really have in anyone else, and he's that sort of player, isn't he? He's just unique, like he was in the Championship, and he lost that sort of unique style, I suppose, in the last couple of years, because he was asked to do things that just don't fit his game, like covering the right back and sort of having the shackles on him. And Gerrard and even Smith, to an extent, would always say that he's a threat and he can get in the box, and they want him to do X, Y, and Z. But ultimately, you need to give him that freedom, because that's when you're going to get the best out of him, and that's when he's at most effect, I suppose. When players can't pick him up when he's breaking lines and charging forward, how do you stop John McGinn when he's going in full pelt and sort of elbows in the air running? It's incredibly hard to stop. And yeah, he's in probably the form of his Villa career at the moment, I'd say, because he's playing at such high level against high level opposition and shining for us. So yeah, long may it continue. Today he had 75% pass accuracy. He had 4 out of 4 dribbles completed, which shows what I mean in terms of when you get him on the half turn and he's running, you ain't stopping him. And then he's got quality to pick it out as well. Pick out his teammates, 3 passes into the final third. And the one thing that he said after the commentator asked, like, what was the key behind the win, he just said run, like running and a lot of it. So yeah, that sort of sums up Villa's performance, sort of dogged, but at the same time, bits of quality for his goal. And yeah, fully deserved to win today. And it's the performances like John McGinn that sort of epitomise where we want to go under Emery, sort of hard work, graft, but that bit of quality to sort of stand out.
Before he got a goal, he's got a goal. He hit the bar as well in the earlier on. I don't know whether it was directly from a move out from the back, but it was certainly 2 periods in play where we played out from the back nicely, and all of a sudden we're at the other end and McGinn's hitting the bar, and he's kind of thinking, oh my God, that goes in. We're kind of talking goal of the season territory for the whole move there, and that's like a peak kind of example of what we're trying to do. If there's any kind of grumbles or frustrations about why we're drawing a player in and Martinez is giving it to Kamara in the first 5 minutes under pressure, it's for that when it does work, it's that kind of result that you get in the end. Did you have something on McGinn you wanted to chuck in, Neil?
I just looked up the statistics about Scotland there, and John McGinn has a better average scoring rate than Kenny Dalglish did have for Scotland. So he's 16 and 54. Dalglish had 30 and 102. Dennis Law is joint top with 30 and 55. So John McGinn is about 14 away from being top scorer, but he's 3 away from the likes of Ali McCoist. He's 2 away from Kenny Miller, and so they would John McGinn does it in a blue shirt, and he's hopefully he starts to score it in a claret and blue shirt as well.
Yeah, I think he could get in the top 3 or 4 quite comfortably if he's only 3 or 4 goals away. Getting 30 might be a bit of a stretch, but like you said, John, if he plays for Scotland for the next 5-6 years, it's not impossible. It needs Scotland to do well as well, I guess, which is maybe the harder part of that, I guess. But yeah, we'll see what happens. There's a couple of voice notes that are about a minute long. One is from an Irish guy, and one's from a guy that's in Malaga. You're gonna have to help me with the pronunciation here now. Not for his name, it's Ronan, but it's from County Lace, Laois, Leash. Why is that Leash, Neil? Come on, there's nothing like Leash. No, there's no H. From County Laois is Ronan. he says this.
All right, Dan, Matt, Ashley, John. Hope you're keeping well, lads.
2 out of 4 is not bad.
Unbelievable away performance under Unai Emery. He's really transformed his club since coming in. There's been so many times that we've seen Aston Villa go a goal or 2 up against the bigger sides and just completely crumble to a scot-free penalty or something silly, but just it's completely under control today. Defended so well, apart from 1 or 2 iffy moments from corners, but just such a breath of fresh air to have Unai at the club. He's doing so well. Like when he came in, we were outside the relegation zone on goals scored or something like that. Whereas now we're looking up, we're only a point off Liverpool in 6th. We still got a lot of them teams left to play. I think we're allowed to get a bit giddy now. Like, I think if we were to somehow scrape into them Europa League, Europa Conference League spots, it would be, a massive achievement, a massive overachievement considering where we were. But I think we can afford to get a bit giddy, a bit excited. We've still got a lot of them teams above us to play. We've still got the likes of Brentford, Liverpool, Spurs, all to play. Brighton the last day of the season. So I think we can definitely get a bit giddy. I think we can definitely lose run of ourselves a bit and enjoy it for what it is. And just to think that this hopefully will only get better when he has his own transfer window in the summer to bring in a couple more bodies and just to complement what we have, get Diego Carlos back fit as well. Future's bright, lads. Have to enjoy it while it's here.
Yeah, that Brighton game on the last day of the season could be massive, couldn't it, for a potential European spot? I totally forgot we got that on the last day. I love the use of the word giddy 3 times in that. Are we allowed to be giddy, Neil?
Yeah. I love the word he said, a scottery penalty, which is a very Irish thing to say. That I started laughing when he said that. But yeah, giddiness. Look, I'm going to put it this way: it's 9:15. I'd say if we were to do this again at 11 o'clock, I'd be rather giddy now tonight, because you got to celebrate the wins, you got to celebrate the successes, and you got to celebrate the good times, because they don't come around too often. Well, even if they do come around too often, you got to celebrate them, because they could always be the last time that you have a good run of form. You talk to teams the likes of oh my God, why am I blanking on teams that have gone out of existence? Bury FC. You talk to their fans, and they would have thought that being a football league team was great, and that they would have always been one takeover away from maybe really solidifying themselves there, and then they're out of business. And I'm not saying that's going to happen to Aston Villa now under our new owners, but we nearly went there, and now we're here and we're having the success, and we've rebuilt, and you've got the great infrastructural projects that are going on with the club at the moment, which I think are really, really, there's some really great stuff going on from that point of view. You've got owners who are bought in. And if you want to keep those good things rolling, you got to have successes, and you got to like it, and you got to celebrate it. So, we're here for a good time, not for a long time. So, you got to understand that too as well when the good days come along.
I mean, even if you take today's result in isolation, we've not beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge since 2011. Alex McLeish was in charge then. I mean, that's a pretty crap record that Emery's got rid of as well. There's a comment from Richard here that I like. He said, I genuinely believe we can get a result in every game, Emery. Terrible way I've read that out there. I genuinely believe we can get a result in every game. Full stop, Richard. Emery is a master tactician! ! Which is bang on. It's been a long time since I felt like that watching Aston Villa either at Villa Park or on the TV or whatever. I kind of think anyone we play, Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, whoever it is, I still think if we're on our game today, especially because Emery's kind of a cup competition manager. If you always say any game as a one-off, you kind of think, well, if you've got a master plan for this one specific game, maybe we can beat any single team out there. Also important to note that we've scored in every game under Emery, 15 Premier League games. We've not had a nil next to our name yet, which is lovely.
You put it another way, Dan, and say if you sort of flip it and look at the opposition's view, if you try and beat Villa, you've got to do a hell of a job to do that. You know what I mean? It's us saying, we can compete against anyone or do whatever. But every club that's playing us now is thinking, we've got Villa, we've got Villa coming, and that's not something that probably would have happened in recent years. So that's another sort of perspective on it. Oh, no one wants to play Villa, and that's some position to be in going ahead of next season.
Yeah, you'd be thinking we've got to get a clean sheet today because they always score. So if we get a clean sheet, we've got a good chance. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. We'll end with this last one from no name, but it's put love from Malaga. It's 57 seconds. I didn't get to listen to it all the way through, so fingers crossed that we end on a good note here.
Rollo, just want to say quick thank you for all the podcasts over the years. Really enjoying it. Big hello to everyone there today. I'm in Malaga. I've been living here 12 years. Last time Villa bet Chelsea, I had a season ticket. I was in the away end. I was on Sky Sports. My top off. Today, a little bit more calm, but my God, did I celebrate in the house here with my baby. What a result, what a performance. And it's been coming. We look a different animal under Unai Emery. Mm-hmm. We're Europe bound, I think. We will pull in the rest of those teams ahead of us. The best thing about this run-in, people think it's difficult, but not really, is it? Because we've got these teams ahead of us. We can reel them in. Brighton, Brentford, the Pool possibly. But me, one team I do want to peel in, or pull in rather, is Newcastle. And I really want to beat them because I can't stand them. Sub on the time. And up to Villa.
Okay, good. We've got away with it. Christ, I wonder where he was going with that for a second. Sub on the time is what he said at the end. Yeah, I love
Irish
that.
are taking over.
Yeah,
Irish are taking over.
Unbelievable scenes. Yeah, I love that. Just nice positivity. I like that you can kind of look at the running now, and at a certain stage, whether it be this season or seasons gone past, you look at certain games and think, well, that's a difficult game, that is. But now in this state of mind where an Irish guy in Malaga is looking at the fixtures going, it's not that hard, is it? We can beat anybody. And that's a great place to be in, isn't it, as a fan?
I feel like if you I want to just sort of stop in this moment in time and just put it in like a time capsule, and just because anything that happens in the future now, we'll look back to this sort of moment and be like, wow, what a position we were in there. Like, just beat Chelsea, unbeaten in 5, got a big summer window coming up. Everything is just kind of perfect right now. So anything that comes after here, I'm a bit like, well, let's see where we go. But this is the moment where you look back on and think, who knows what's going to happen from here, and that's incredibly exciting. So yeah,
and that's why you celebrate the wins. That's exactly why you celebrate the wins, because you could look back in the score. Remember that night we were all in cloud nine? Yeah, and I never celebrated. I don't know when I'll have one of those moments again. So
yeah,
exactly, and that's what we need to do. Like, this is the moment where we're still thinking, oh, hold on, two points from Europe. We play all the teams ahead of us. We've got a big summer coming. We have Emery. We're 15 games into his tenure. Like, everything is perfect, even from the top down to the academy. The whole lot is there. So yeah, let's just ride with it and hope this is the start of something incredibly exciting, and I'm sure it is.
There's a podcast that we filmed, John. I don't know whether it was the Douglas Louise one that's already gone out or one of the other ones that we filmed that hasn't come out yet. And we were sat at the desk I'm at now, and I was saying, like, if we look further down the line, everything's all right at the moment. It all kind of leads to that. If I go all the way down there to like the end of the timeline, it results in Emery being successful because there's so many kind of like incremental small wins. They're all adding up to like this big overall Villa are getting bigger, better narrative. Just to end then, I've got a random shout out I need to do, but to end the kind of football chat between the three of us, in a word or as simple as you can make your answer, both of you, we'll go with Neil first. European football, Neil, this season, yes or no? As in, will we do it? Not would you like it? Because obviously the answer is yes. Do you think we'll do it?
No.
Ooh, John, yes or no?
I know as well.
Get out, both of you.
57 minutes of like being on cloud nine, high as a kite. Nah, I don't think we'll get European football though.
If we win 5 games, if we win 5 of our last 10 games, we'll get it. Because I think 56 points will get you. We'll get you. But when you see 56 points, and I think that's a fair shout that 56 will be the barometer. But like when you look at that, actually, do you know what? I'm going to change my answer. I'm going to say because I think 8th position could get you it. 8th position could get you your Conference League. And I forgot, I was still in the mindset of us still being in 11th because, that's old habits die hard. But, we're one place away, depending on what way cup results go. You could get Conference League. Are we going to get Champions League? No, we're not going to get Champions League. But we could get Conference League. Yeah, so I'm going to change it to yes. Yeah, go on.
I think we can get Europa League.
What is the stipulation?
Forget the Conference League. If we get it, I'd absolutely love it. But we're 2 points off 6th place, Neil. Like, why are we rolling out the Europa League? There's only one win.
just games in hand, I suppose. Really, is where that was my reason for saying no initially, was games in hand. But then again, those teams that have games in hand in us, those games in hand are essentially against us. As I know that they're not against us, they can't be, but we still play those teams. So we've an opportunity to take those points back off them as well. So, but I'm going to change to yes. But my initial answer was, as I say, I thought there was just too many teams above us, because laws of averages would say that the more teams you got to leapfrog, the less likely it is. But let's go for it.
What's the stipulation to get 8th? Is that if Brighton don't win the FA Cup, is then 8th open for Conference League?
Yes, I think that's what it is. I read it somewhere today. I just read it somewhere today. So,
okay. I would say yes then, because I do think we'd finish above maybe one more team. I think Brighton are in really good form. Brentford have, if you look at their form over the last 20 games, they've lost one game, which is incredible. They went on a 12-match unbeaten run at one point in the season. We're getting all excited over a 5-match unbeaten run. So there are some really good teams in this league, and we are only 9th at the moment. But there's every reason why we can't. There's no reason, why we can't finish.
I'll bring you back to the point that we've gained more points than Brentford over that period of time as well, though. Yeah, just 2 points, but still, they needed to go on a 20-match or losing one one match in 20 games, whereas we've won more games, I think so. But then again, drawing is a skill as well. Not losing games and drawing them is a skill. Brighton, that's what's kept Brighton so high up in the league since they've come into the Premier League too, is the ability to not lose from a drawing position, whereas Villa have been really bad at that since they've gotten into the Premier League again. So
I've just been going through the fixture list and trying to work out some maths, but I'm rubbish at maths. So I've just seen that Emery's played 15 for us in the Premier League so far and won 9. Is that right? Because it sounds like a lot, and it feels like that shouldn't be a ratio that Villa have got, winning 9 out of 15. But I've tried to go through and add them up as quick as I can, and I'm pretty sure it's right.
Well,
we've won 9 from 15. Well, exactly, yeah. We've got Brighton, Man United, Spurs. Most recent
we've won
games.
5 away.
Yeah, it's got to be 9. That's got to be right. So we've won 9 from 15, and there's 10 left. So if you can work out what 9 and 15 is as a points per game, or X wins out of X, can we then kind of say that we're going to win 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10 and work out a kind of projection?
9 from 15, it's so you 2/3 that it'd be 6 from 10.
Yeah. So if we win 6 out of 10, that's another 18 points. We're on what now? 41, is it?
Yeah. I was even saying if we win 5 out of 10, 56 seems like a good number historically to get into Europe on 56 points, I think. But then again, you look at our fixtures, and I hate playing the fixture game because every game is different. But, put it this way, if we were to do this podcast after Forest at the weekend and we've beaten Leicester and Forest, I'm buying the factor 50, put it that way.
Factor 50 for a cold Thursday night to Czech Republic or whatever.
Yeah, Tallinn, or somewhere like that. Out to the Faroe Islands.
I think to balance, you two both said no initially. I'm going to say yes, that we'll get some kind of European football this season.
I just need to see it to believe it. I'm still in that position of.
But then when you say that we've won 9 out of 15, that isn't a Villa thing to do.
It's absolutely all there. It's all there in front of me, and it says, "Wow, Villa are an incredible team." And if this wasn't Aston Villa and it was, any other club, I'd be saying they were on the up and they'll probably get European football. But it's literally just a mental thing. If I'm a Villa fan and for whatever reason I have a blocker made that says Villa in European football, it's just too soon. And it probably doesn't make much sense because we are the third best team in the league in terms of form over not just 6 games, but 15. So there's every chance we should, and we probably will. But at the moment, I'm just a bit like, I need to see it to believe it. And I think in the last few games of the season, that's when I'll be more sort of, yes, we probably can. But while we've still got, how many games have we got left of the season now?
10.
Still a lot of football to play. But let's try and be optimistic, I suppose. And let's take every game as it comes, and we can win all of them. We probably won't, but we can. That's the thing. In each game, we can go into that game and win. So that's quite crazy, really, from where we've come from in the space of 5 months.
I can't hear from Ryan. I don't know whether this permutation is right. He says no, Villa will finish 8th and West Ham win the Conference League and take the place off us. Surely, if they win that, they'll go into the Europa League or something rather than the Conference. And if anything, it'll push it down a place.
Yeah, but you lose out, and I think there's some stipulation.
Swap it.
Yeah, maybe something along those lines. Yeah, you lose out on a Conference League place then.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Hopefully it doesn't come to that anyway. West Ham, I'm going to win it all that.
quickly before we go down, would you want Conference League football next year? Just with everything else that it brings, would that stop us in the league next year?
No, I don't care. We'll worry about that. It's the case of this window as you go, oh, we've got Europe, by the way, so that kind of elevates you a level. I was going to finish with the last point. I saw a conversation on social media last week or the week before, and it's a similar thing about when we were in the Championship about getting promoted too early, as in if you go up and we're not ready for it. Like,
I never got that.
I have to sign loads of players. Like if we go up this season, we won't be ready for it. We'd come straight back down.
You escape that.
You get some of the same kind of conversation now going. If Villa get Europe this season, whatever it is, Conference League, Europa League, not the Champions League, people would go, well, Villa aren't ready for it yet, so we'd go out in the first round or whatever, and it'd be a waste of time and it'd be a pointless achievement for me.
No.
If you say European football, yes or no, it's yes at all costs, because your players that you've got suddenly go, Villa are heading in the right direction. Your transfer targets change based off the back of that. And that's why we're just kind of writing off the future by going, oh, well, we're not ready for it, so we'll lose in the first round. Why can't we go all the way then? Straight away?
And plus, if the bigger teams get their way with regards to this coefficient number that's going to actually get teams into Europe, even though they don't get it on merit, they get it on coefficient. And look, those battles are going to come back in the horizon again this summer. The Super League, the renovation of Europa, of the UEFA kind of competitions, they're going to come back in. We need to be getting Europe sooner than we think, otherwise it becomes a closed shop. Give me Europe any day of the week. And with regards to, you look at likes of West Ham this season and their lull coming back from Europa games. Good managers manage this. Yeah. It's not a problem for and I'm not like David Moyes did it last year, and no, he didn't do it last year because I don't think they were in Europe last year. But good managers manage it.
Yeah.
Was it last year?
That was last season, I think.
Was it?
Yeah.
I thought it was. So anyway, okay. He did do it last year. But
we'll edit that out, Neil. Don't worry about it. We'll edit it out.
Good manager. I've only got enough Claret and Blue in my mind for one team. But like as I say, Unai Emery, if you want a manager to go and play on a Thursday night and come back to the league, we've the bloody best of the business. He goes away and he wins the tournament, so we can't give up this chance. Getting Europe now is really good for Aston Villa Football Club. It's really good because of the manager we have, the infrastructure we have set up as well, and the players that we have at this moment in time are all prime players. Very few of them over 30. Tyrone Mings reached 30 recently. Yvemi Martinez is 30. I'm blanking if I don't think anybody else in the team is even. Giddiness is 30. Ashley Young is 38.
Ashley Young almost 40.
Ashley Young is 31 days younger than me, which makes me feel awful every single time I see his date of birth. But what I'm getting at here is that the core element of the team here, they're in their prime, they're in their peak, they're all 26, 27, 28, 29. That's when you want the players that's when the players are glowing from a potential point of view. So, if we get it this year, absolutely sign me up for it. It should never be thought of as a negative. Never.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm going to have to call the podcast there because as much as I'm loving the chat, I'm starving. We've done over an hour and it's 9:30 and I want to go have a drink, I want to get some food and enjoy the rest of the night. I've got to end with a shout out there because I promised I would. My mum and dad went to, mainly my dad really, because my mum just kind of goes with my dad as like his carer. It's obviously not. But my mum doesn't care about football, but she's gone to this evening with Andy Gray recently. I came back with this big print of Andy Gray's face and a sign thing. I'm going to give this away as a prize at some point, so stay tuned for that whenever, don't know when. But they were just chatting to a couple of people that they were sat with, and one of the guys happened to be a big Claret and Blue podcast fan. My mum was texting me going, "Oh, I think Jez was his name." She just put Jez, tell you later. And I was like, okay. And she was like, "Oh, Jez, we spoke to him earlier and he watched the podcast. He loves it. He said, can we have a shout out, blah, blah, blah." So, Jez, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the Andy Gray evening. Sorry you got to speak to my mum and dad for so long. That must have been painful. But yeah, nice to kind of get feedback like that where people just randomly, like, it wasn't even to me or any of us. It was my parents got into conversation about Aston Villa, talked about the podcast in some aspects, and then getting some nice feedback, which was really nice. So yeah, thanks, Jess, for watching as always. Neil, thank you for joining us as a kind of special guest. We thought that John might not be available tonight, and then as soon as we were about to start recording, he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm ready." So the three-way podcast, I enjoyed it very much as well. It's nice to do something a little bit different with the phone-in section as well. Might try and do that for every game going forward. The only problem is when we do it for home games, I need to like vet them and listen to them to make sure it's not a Blues fan taking the mick or whatever. So we'll do it as and when, because I think it was a nice addition. John, thanks for joining us unexpectedly. Your insight is appreciated as ever. Thanks to the 650 people watching on a Saturday night. That's our biggest kind of live viewership for a long time. So nice to see that Villa have come back with a nice big result, and we're getting some big numbers off the back of it as well, which is really nice to see. So thank you very much for everyone tuning in. As always, we'll be back on Monday with our next podcast, which will be John and John McKenzie talking tactics. It was filmed before Chelsea, but everything they talked about still applies because we play the same way. And if anything, it's some further evidence to what we've seen. So we're back on Monday. So stay tuned to the Club podcast for more. Just thank you, gents, for joining me as always. All aboard the European bus, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Bye. Thank you for listening to Claret and Blue and Aston Villa podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please do let us know. We love hearing your thoughts and comments. We'll be back soon with another episode, but until then, up the Villa.